What's up everyone, Alex here. You're probably thinking to yourself right now, deja vu. No, dear viewer, you've watched this before. Well, most of it. In the previous video, I asked you to post your favorite JRPGs with great characters in the comments, because I'm old and I don't remember every single game I played. And that's true, I wasn't lying. But what I didn't tell you was that I was gonna remake the video with 4 new games based on the games that you've suggested. So thank you very much for all your help. At any rate, I've gone through the entire video and script all over again, added the 4 games, and even recorded a new end for this video. And after reading all of your comments, sharing your stories with some great JRPGs that you've played, I can definitively say that this list that I have right here is my absolute favorite JRPGs with fantastic characters. Absolutely. If for some reason you missed the previous video, I have the link right here. But much like the previous video, if there are any JRPGs with great characters that you thought of between now and then, or if this is the first time you watch this video, please post them in the comments below so we can talk about it. So let's kick things off with a game that wasn't in the previous list. The move from a single-player action game in the Yakuza series to one that's turn-based and Like a Dragon felt like a really huge moment for me, especially when Yakuza Like a Dragon introduced us to one Ichiban Kasuga. Ichiban stands in stark contrast to the stoic nature of the legendary Kazuma Kiryu, but there's no denying that he's got a heart of gold. And when you combine that with his loyalty to Arakawa and his friends, you know that this is a person who's always got your back. But more than that, the entire Yakuza / Like a Dragon series has always featured the best Asian melodrama money can buy, including bombastic moments, villains you'd love to hate, and quirky side activities that put a smile on your face. But best of all are the characters that flank Ichiban, who will always make his adventures more than just your standard RPG affair. And let's not forget how passionate Ichiban is for Dragon Quest, which is his favorite JRPG series of all time. If you've never played a single Trails game before, you owe it to yourself to start with Trails from Zero, because the SSS is quite possibly my favorite group of ragtag investigators in the entire series history. And because there are 2 games in this arc, I'm also inclined to include Trails to Azure as well. What's great about these games is the sense of intimacy that you get by setting the game purely in and around the town of Crossbell, hence the arc's namesake. By regularly meeting up with the same NPCs, combined with Falcom's insane attention to detail and updating everybody's dialogue once you hit certain story milestones, it feels like you're stepping into a world that reacts to what you're doing, placing an increased emphasis on your actions and your importance to the story. And given the different nuances and motivations that each character has, and you've got a crew that's not only entertaining to play as, but also fun to get to know. So if Falcom ever decides to do a full 3D remake of Crossbell, you know that I'll be there to pick it up on day 1. The original Persona 4 was the JRPG that brought me back to the genre after a short stint playing Western RPGs and Call of Duty. And while the game was released at the tail end of the PS2's life, the game's anime aesthetic, use of that bright yellow, capped off with that CRT look and feel, gave the game such a unique visual design that it proved once and for all that you don't need to rely much on technology to make great-looking games. But more than that, Persona 4's cast was very relatable to me. And despite everyone's opinions on the web about its characters, its story highlights the fact that people can be flawed, and that's okay. Moreover, the theme of seeking out the truth in yourself has to be the purest representation of the series to date, delving deep into the idea of shadows and personas that Carl Jung describes in his Ruminations, and showcasing a depth of storytelling that is really tough to beat. Between the original game and Golden, I've probably visited Yasuo Inaba the most out of every single JRPG I've ever played in my entire life. And every time I have, I always learn about myself and other people. I gotta be honest here. I've tried desperately to replay through the original Final Fantasy VII beyond my original playthrough back when it came out. And I just can't do it. that localization hasn't aged well, and patching to fix that is more trouble than it's worth. Which brings me to the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, which functions as both a remake and a sequel to the original. I'm not here to talk about the merits of its existence, but when you take the characters' journeys in both games, as well as the time it takes to build up some of the other characters in Avalanche like Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, and you've got a series of games that really does a fantastic job of capturing the spirit and the drama of the original, with a modern lens. For me, seeing my favorite characters in full 3D, fully voiced, and experiencing some memorable scenes, and building a new mystery on top of this familiarity moves me like no other. And I can honestly say that no other game has attempted something of this magnitude to try to bridge the gap between the old and the new. And when you reach the story's most pivotal scenes, you can't help but be brought back to those moments when you experience these stories for the first time. After all, isn't that what great characters are able to do? This is another series that so many of you strongly wanted to see on this list, but this choice probably isn't something you expected either. I could have picked Xillia, Berseria, and so many others to be on this list, but I chose Tales of Arise not just because of the sheer increase in presentation and graphical fidelity when compared to the previous games, but also its gameplay reminded me a lot of the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Like the aforementioned series, you can call upon assists to have your party members jump in and unleash a powerful attack at your foes. And like the aforementioned series, you can also change to that person and assume control of them right away. This led to not just a diverse cast of characters, each with their own playstyles, but fantastic characterizations that felt very much like you're experiencing an old-school fantasy anime. And given how the game even managed to honor the original Wolf team by introducing some unexpected elements towards the end, this anniversary title really swept me in the best ways possible. And honestly, I can't wait to play whatever Tales game they've got cooking next. Whether you've experienced Three Houses or Three Hopes, you can't deny that the students of Garreg Monastery have affected you in some way. I wanted to recruit every single character in Three Houses, much like I edited my Chicago Bulls to have the best players back when I played NBA Showdown on the SNES. And yes, I used to play sports games. But the reality is that loyalties are strong in Three Houses, and it broke my heart to have to face some of my favorite characters after getting to know them well thanks to my time at the Academy. That's of course right after you swear fealty to one of the eponymous Three Houses in the game, each with their own merits and goals. Choosing your first house felt like a personality test of sorts, so what does it say about me when I chose Edelgard? That aside, Three Hopes serves as an alternate retelling of the events of Three Houses, with you controlling a completely different character and featuring Byleth from the aforementioned game as the antagonist. Yet despite the change in genre and its spin-off nature, Three Hopes gave me an excuse to hang out with my favorite characters all over again, with a ton of fun strategic action to boot. I promised myself that I would only choose one game for each franchise that I feature in this video. So while I absolutely love Dragon Quest XI's, I have to give it up to the game that brought me back to Dragon Quest after a short sojourn, Dragon Quest VIII. Maybe I just like small parties, as evidenced by Crossbell, but I absolutely love the cast of Dragon Quest VIII. Between my character, Yangus, Jessica, Angelo, the King, and the Princess, the journey through Dragon Quest VIII felt like a playable anime, with its beautiful cel-shaded characters, fantastic voice acting, a vast world waiting for you to explore, and a fully orchestrated soundtrack exclusive to Western PS2 players. And while the 3DS release did add a few changes here and there, it's the original PS2 game that I'll always think fondly of. Just talking about the game makes me want to pop it in. But if Square Enix ever decides to mash all of the features of the 3DS release with the PS2 game and remaster that for modern consoles, I'd go for that too. What would you do if you had 10 years left in your life? That's a question that everyone in the main cast of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 had to answer for themselves, living in perpetual youth as their lives are sacrificed for a war that has become a way of life for many. This tragic framing sets the stage for an incredible adventure with lots of revelations and a cast of characters that is absolutely one of my favorites in the series' history. The way that you bear witness to every character's growth as they learn more about the war and the machinations behind it are a sight to behold, as every voice work, cutscene, and song work in concert to deliver a truly dramatic narrative that just moves me to no end. And that's not even talking about the fantastic DLC in Future Redeemed, which serves as a prologue to the events of the game. And thanks to you, I'm reminded of this incredible game and its DLC, making it an absolutely fitting addition to this illustrious list of JRPGs. The original Octopath Traveler just doesn't compare to Octopath Traveler II. The latter not only improved its storytelling and gameplay, but also introduced us to a cast of characters that's become some of my favorites in modern JRPGs. From the charismatic capitalist Particio to the Holmes Watson-esque dynamics of Temenos and Crick, the characters of Octopath 2 brim with so much vibrance and life that contrasts with the darkness that's brewing behind the scenes. And yes, that's despite Oswald's broody nature. And what's more is that the game feels like it encourages exploration a ton more than the original, complete with quests that bring two characters together in their own journey, as well as a post-game that serves as the answer to many unsolved questions you may have encountered along the way. That's not even talking about its amazing voice acting cast, Yasunori Nishiki's incredible soundtrack, and the Industrial Revolution setting. And when you tie all of those together, along with its fantastic story and great characters, and you've got an instant classic that's representative of the very best of the modern age of JRPGs. I'm being a hypocrite by saying that I'm only letting myself talk about one game per series here, but Final Fantasy VI, despite many others trying to take its place in my heart, is still at the core of my love for JRPGs. That's due in part because of the wonderful characterizations, stories, and abilities that made every single character in Final Fantasy VI so unique. Edward's penchant for machinery in his weaponry, Sabin's Street Fighter-type inputs, Gao's ability to learn new skills from monsters, Celis's ability to absorb magic for herself. These and many more like them help define an era of Final Fantasy to me that I long to have again. And when you blend all of that with the Esper system and a villain in Kefka that you'd love to hate, which, by the way, the villain did win, and you've got an ambitious and truly massive game that not even the most popular Final Fantasies have ever reached. Simply put, Final Fantasy VI, despite its deceptively simple pixel art and presentation, captures my imagination like none other. And it's all thanks to a cast of characters who affected me deeply, paving the way for some incredible stories that have truly stood the test of time. A good list of JRPGs with great characters wouldn't be complete without mention of a Vanillaware title, and 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim sits atop the pack, gazing proudly into the future. I'm not going to argue whether or not it's a JRPG, that point is moot, because every single character in 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim delivered on so much mystery and personality that I can honestly say that it's not only got one of the best stories I played in JRPGs in recent memory, but also has a cast that is absolutely some of the best developed in this entire generation. And if you think that's hyperbole, play the game and find out. Because of its unique non-linear storytelling, you, the player, almost feel like you're taking the role of an investigative reporter, bearing witness to all of these seemingly disparate events, and slowly building a case as your knowledge of the overall plot unfolds before your very eyes. And the more you play, the more its characters almost morph and change into things that you didn't expect, and even more clarity is achieved. The way I've felt about 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim's characters is unlike anything I've played, and that bears repeating. And if you haven't played this game yet, I urge you to check it out immediately. And thanks to your help, these are 11 games that I proudly proclaim are my absolute favorite JRPGs with great characters. As with the previous video, I am certain that I missed some here. So post your thoughts in the comments below and share your favorite JRPGs with great characters. And make sure to tell me why you like them. Also, I think JRPG genres can be better, and so I made a top 10 list of my favorite subgenres in this video right here, and I also share my favorite games in each. Keep in mind that this isn't all-encompassing, but I think you'll enjoy this regardless. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.